Hey there boys, today we're going to be looking at the dawning stuff because we actually have some really interesting things here. So we're going to cover three main points here. The first one is going to be the Glacioclasm, which actually has really good perks right now. We'll also have a look at the other dawning weapons and show off why they aren't as great as they could be, but they probably shouldn't be since they are limited to only being gotten right now. It would be some pretty bad FOMO if they were completely unreplaceable. And finally, we'll be looking at how you should be going about getting your cookies and handling the dawning to get the most rewards out of the cookies and your time spent playing. So let's go ahead and hop into it, starting with the Glacioclasm. For those that don't know, the Glacioclasm has a pretty rich history with this game of being a super overpowered PvP fusion rifle that never really had good enough PvE perks to be used there as well, and also in the past it wasn't the greatest archetype either, but now high impact frames are actually a very good DPS archetype, so we're going to be having a look at it because it's got some exciting perks this season. So if we go ahead and have a look at the perks, we can see right away that we're able to get Controlled Burst mixed with Overflow. This is the same glove roll that we have on the Scattered Signal, which is obviously the best individual fusion rifle in the game right now. However, this one is a high impact frame, so it's more in line with stuff like Aramite and Nox Perennial. The main thing that makes this special is that it is the only good Void fusion rifle for damage now. It's the only one that has actual damage perks and reload perks. The other Void fusions in the game just don't add up at all. While we're on the topic of dawning weapons, we're going to go ahead and have a look at the other choices that dropped this season, because a lot of them did actually get some updated perks compared to what they had in the past. However, none of them are really mind-blowing quite like the fusion rifle here is, which I think is actually a pretty good option that's worth farming for. The rest of these are fairly replaceable, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that. However, before we do that, I do want to just take a second and thank everybody who's been watching the videos. We've been getting some insane support lately. We're over 1,100 subscribers now. We hit YouTube Partner with the last video, so I really want to just thank everybody who's been watching. It means the world to me. If you're not already subscribed, I highly recommend it. I actually work really hard on this content, and I always try to verify any information I have and make sure that I'm really bringing the truth and not bringing any fake hype to weapons, which I know is a pretty big problem in this community among creators right now. Anyway, leave a comment with your thoughts, please. I love to read them, and let's get on with the rest of the video. Now, I figure while we're here, we can go ahead and have a look at the rest of the dawning weapons. However, most of them are pretty much just mid and nothing too special, but some of them are a little bit unique, or they might be easier to get than some of the alternatives, so we'll still have a look at them. And we'll go with the most exciting and newest option here with the Glaive. So this thing, a lot of people were hyping it up. They thought maybe it was going to be a stasis element glaive or something like that. No, it's an arc glaive. It is, however, an aggressive glaive, which is pretty uncommon. However, I do believe that adaptives have a better damage profile, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that, but it's glaives, so who cares. This thing pretty much has nothing too special going for it. It doesn't have impulse amplifier, which is unfortunate. It does have beacon rounds, which is kind of silly and might be fun in like PvP, but reality is you don't need tracking on a glaive in PvE. So the combo is probably going to be Grave Robber and Close to Melee. Close to Melee is pretty much the best damage perk on glaives because it is the only one that applies to the melee, which is what you'd use a glaive for. And then Grave Robber is also a given. It's a way to reload your glaive by using the melee. So nothing too interesting here, but if you do need an aggressive glaive for some reason and you don't want to go and do trials for the best glaive in the game, you could probably cope with this thing. And having a look at the Stay Frosty, it is a pulse rifle, which automatically makes it not very good. However, it does have one use. If we ever have barrier pulse rifle again, it does have under over, which isn't as good as adaptive munitions, but under over is still a 125% increase to combatant shields, so it can pop barriers pretty easily. And it has enlightened action as a reload perk, which is a pretty good perk for reloading on a pulse rifle. It's also a lightweight frame, so it lets you move a little quicker. It's probably the best feeling frame for PvE. Otherwise, it seems like this was very clearly designed for PvP with all the perks like Moving Target and Encore, Tunnel Vision, all these things. And of course, Kill Clip and Head Seeker, very PvP focused, so. And speaking of PvP weapons, I actually have a friend, Pooba Parker, who does PvP videos. He's a small creator like me. So if you want to see some of these weapons used in PvP, you should go check out his channel. I'm sure he's going to cover at least a few of them as he gets them. If you are interested in that, I'll have him linked in the description below. And here we have the Avalanche. Probably one of the less terrible weapons, but really nothing too special either. Pretty much you're going to be using autoloading and incandescent on this thing. This is pretty much in direct competition with the Trials machine gun by literally being a Suro's 450 RPM solar machine gun. So the only thing it really has over that is going to be the Dawning Surprise Origin trait, which is not amazing, but it does at least do something in PvE. The Trials Origin trait doesn't really do anything. So if you were going to go for an incandescent machine gun, then this is probably the better one. However, that's going to be by a very small margin, and if you already have a good unwavering duty, I definitely wouldn't bother. Next up, we have the DeWalt cordless drill, and this thing is pretty much always clowned on, and well, for good reasons looking at the perks. It has Frenzy, which is pretty good, but it doesn't really have anything that works with Frenzy. Since Frenzy already covers reload and damage, you really want a utility perk here, and it just doesn't have anything here. This would actually be a top option if it just had shoot to loot in this tree, because we don't have very good kinetic shoot to loot weapons right now. But since it doesn't, it's just another mid frenzy SMG that I'd probably just use submission over. That stability stat is also hilariously small. And finally we have the Zephyr. This is the only stasis sword in the game, so it does have that going for it. However, the element choice of swords isn't really that important, and the perks are really nothing special here since swords aren't capable of having special perks. The only thing unique it has is going to be Cold Steel, but this perk is ass. It doesn't increase your damage at all, and why would you use a sword to apply slow to like majors or adds when you could just use a fusion rifle or just shoot it with a gun and not bother with that? So I really wouldn't recommend this perk at all. But it does still get Whirlwind Blade, and it also has Surrounded, and of course it has Relentless Strikes, so it automatically has the technical sword god roll. However, considering any content that has surges, which is the only reason you'd care about the stasis surge, has two choices, there's really no reason to get this because you could just have a god roll in another element and just use that element sword instead of this one. So this is one of those ones that it's not total garbage, but it's really nothing special and it's completely replaceable, and there's probably something else that's easier to get. And the last thing I want to talk about is actually how you get these weapons, because it's a little bit convoluted. It's nothing too crazy, but it does help to know how to do it before you go into it. That way you don't mess up and spend way more time doing things that you didn't need to do. So first of all, you're going to want to masterwork the oven. You can see here, this is a shot of me basically getting the last cookie I need crafted. If you did the donning in past years, the cookies you made then already count towards it, so you only need to make the new ones. Once you do that, it costs less essence of donning to make cookies, so then you'll want to just use whatever you have the most of and just make a buttload of cookies and go turn them into whoever you made it for. In this case, I was farming the void kills on Hive for the early glacioclasm, so I had a lot of stuff I could turn into Tess Everest, and here you can see we get the Spirit of Dawning. I did notice it was annoyingly taking me out of my menu and making me give her like one at a time, which is going to be really annoying if this happens to all the NPCs, so leave a comment below if you figure that out. I didn't have time to go and make more cookies for other guys, so let me know if you figure out any solution to that. Now after you do that, you'll get the Dawning Spirit, and you'll want to go to Eva Levante and go to the upgrades. Basically the fourth one there will let you focus the gift in return that you get sometimes whenever you give the NPCs a cookie into a specific weapon instead of just having a random chance at any of them. So I definitely recommend doing all of that, so that way you can actually focus the specific weapon and not rely on the 1 in 6 chance of getting the right thing. And that's going to be the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. And if there was anything you want to do to support me, please just leave a comment. I love to see what people have to say to me. Sometimes you guys teach me something, or you have questions for me, or you just want to tell me about the video. Whatever it is, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all in the next one.